Good afternoon, leopards. I don't know what time you might be watching this, but it is Sunday afternoon here at my house, and I am pretty excited this week because I talked with your teachers and I asked them if I could teach you writing this week. So, like a little week mini unit. We're going to focus on personal narrative. So, when I was a teacher, Writer's Workshop was one of my most favorite times of the day. So, I am excited I get to share this with you all this week. Today, what you've been doing the previous days in Writer's Workshop, it probably varies because I'm going to teach one lesson to kindergarten through second grade and one to 3rd through 5th, all with that personal narrative focus and all kind of focused on similar things each day. But today what I want to teach you is a little bit about just what personal narrative is, and then I want to teach you that writers of personal narrative writing, they generate ideas for what they're going to write about from their own lives. And one way they do this is by thinking of a person, so people, places, or things that have been important to them in their life, and then making lists of those and jotting a little bit about those things. So I'm going to show you how I do that today. But first, before I do that, I wanted to read you one of my most favorite personal narratives. It is called 11, and I may have shared it with some of you, and it's by Sandra Cisneros, so your teachers may have shared it with you. It's from a book called Woman Hollering Creek. So I'm just going to read you this, and then I will show you a little bit about how I think of ideas to write my own personal narrative. What they don't understand about birthdays is that what they never tell you is that when you're 11, you're also 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And when you wake up on your 11th birthday, you expect to feel 11, but you don't. You open your eyes and everything's just like yesterday, only it's today. And you don't feel 11 at all. You feel like you're still 10, and you are, underneath that year that makes you 11. Like some days you might say something stupid, and that's the part of you that's still 10. Or maybe some days you might need to sit on your mama's lap because you're scared, and that's the part of you that's 5. And maybe one day when you're all grown up and maybe you need to cry as if you're 3, and that's okay. Because I tell Mama when she's sad, that's what I tell Mama when she's sad and she needs to cry. Maybe she's feeling 3. Because the way you grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit inside the other, each year inside the next one. That's how being 11 years old is. You don't feel 11, not right away. It takes a few days, weeks even, sometimes even months before you say 11 when they ask you. And you don't feel smart 11, not until you're almost 12. That's just the way it is. Only today, I wish I didn't have only 11 years rattling inside of me like pennies in a tin Band-Aid box. Today, I wish I was 102 instead of 11, because if I was 102, I would have known what to say when Mrs. Price put that red sweater on my desk. I wouldn't know how to tell her it wasn't mine. I would know how to tell her it wasn't mine instead of just sitting there with that look on my face and nothing coming out of my mouth. "Whose is this?" Mrs. Price asked, as she holds up the red sweater in the air for all the class to see. "Whose? It's been sitting in the coat room for a month." "Not mine," says everybody. "Not me." "It has to belong to someone," Miss Price keeps saying, but nobody can remember. It's an ugly sweater with red plastic buttons and a collar and sleeves all stretched out like you could use them for a jump rope. It's maybe 1,000 years old, and even if it belonged to me, I wouldn't say so. Maybe because I'm skinny, or maybe because she doesn't like me. That stupid Sylvia Salvador says, "I think it belongs to Rachel." An ugly sweater like that, all raggedy and old, but Mrs. Price believes her. Mrs. Price takes the sweater and puts it right on my desk, and when I open my mouth, nothing comes out. "That's right, I don't. You're not mine," I finally say in a little voice that was maybe me when I was 4. "Of course it's yours," Mrs. Price says. "I remember you wearing it once." Because she's older and she's a teacher, she's right and I'm not. "Not mine, not mine, not mine," but Mrs. Price is already turning to page 32 in math problem number 4. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I'm feeling sick inside, like the part of me that's 3 wants to come out my eyes. And I squeeze them shut tight, and I bite down on my teeth real hard, and I try to remember today I am 11. 11. Mama is making a cake for me tonight, and when Papa comes home, everybody will sing happy birthday to you. But when the sick feeling goes away and I open my eyes, the red sweater's still sitting there like a big red mountain. I move the red sweater to the corner of my desk with my ruler. I move my pencil and books and eraser as far from it as possible. I even move my chair a little to the right. Not mine, not mine, not mine. In my head, I'm thinking, how long till lunchtime? How long till I can take that red sweater and throw it over the steel yard fence? Or leave it hanging on a parking meter, or bunch it up into a little ball and toss it into the alley? Except when math period ends, Mrs. Price says loudly and in front of everybody, "Now, Rachel, that's enough," because she sees I've shoved the red sweater to the tippy-tip corner of my desk, and it's hanging all over the edge like a waterfall, but I don't care. "Rachel," Mrs. Price says. She says it now like she's getting mad. "You put that sweater on right now and no more nonsense." "But it's not now," Mrs. Price says. This is when I wish I wasn't 11, because all the years inside me, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, are pushing at the back of my eyes when I put one arm through the sleeve of that sweater that smells like cottage cheese, and then the other arm through the other, and I stand there with my arms apart as if the sweater hurts me, and it does, all itchy and full of germs that aren't mine. That's when everything I've been holding in since this morning, since when Mrs. Price put the sweater on my desk, finally lets go. And all of a sudden, I'm crying in front of everybody. I wish I was invisible, but I'm not. I'm 11, and it's my birthday today, and I'm crying like I'm 3 in front of everybody. I put my head down on the desk, and I bury my face in my stupid clown sweater arms. My face all hot and spit coming out of my mouth because I can't stop the little animal noises from coming out of me until there aren't any more tears left in my eyes. And it's just my body shaking like when you have the hiccups. My whole head hurts like when you drink milk too fast. But the worst part is right before the bell rings for lunch. That silly Phyllis Lopez, who is even sillier than Sylvia Salvador, says she remembers the red sweater is hers. I take it off right away and give it to her. Only Mrs. Price pretends like everything's okay. Today, I'm 11. There's a cake Mama's making for me tonight, and when Papa comes home from work, we'll eat it. There'll be candles and presents, and everybody will sing happy birthday to you, Rachel, only it's too late. I'm 11 today. I'm 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But I wish I was 102. I wish I was anything but 11, because I want to be far away already. Far away like a runaway balloon. Like a tiny O in the sky. So tiny, teeny, tiny that you have to close your eyes to see it. Okay, you guys. So that is one of my most favorite personal narratives, and when I taught 5th grade, I used to share that with my class when we would learn about personal narratives. And we'll come back to that over this week. But what I also wanted to show you is, so like I said at the beginning, today I want to teach you that writers of personal narrative think of things that have happened in their life, and that's what they decide to write their own stories about. Okay, and they do that by thinking of people, places, and things that have been important or influential in their life, and then making lists of those and taking one and then writing a little bit longer about that. Okay, so for example, in my writer's notebook, which you guys see it's been with me for quite some time, since I was Miss Block. That was my name before I got married. But I decorated my notebook a long time ago with things that were important to me. I probably could add a lot to that because it's been a while. But what I wanted to show you is that one way that I've done this, I have a couple ways that I'll show you in here, but one particularly today. So I have in the past made these like who am I lists, and you may have done something similar with your teacher. You may already have a place in your notebook that this year you've jotted down people, places, things. Let me see if I can, I'm going to flip it around. I wanted to make it so it's not backwards to you, but people, places, things, my friends, special places in my life, vacations that I've taken, or favorite foods, things like that. And then today, I wanted to show you one way that I've just narrowed that down and really worked on this actually this weekend. It was beautiful outside, and it is today, which is why I'm working outside. You guys might be like me and you're finding a new place to work each day and being flexible with our new learning. But you can see I named people in my life that have been important to me, events, firsts and lasts. That's a really good one, because like the first time I ever met my kids, so like when I gave birth to my babies, I could tell you stories about that. or maybe the first day this year at Lakewood, my first day being your principal, I could definitely write a personal narrative about that. Or maybe my first day of e-learning with you last week. Or last could be like the last time that you remember seeing a loved one. Maybe they passed away and it was the last time that you saw them before you said goodbye. Places, so these are just important places in my life, so places I've lived, places I go when we go on vacation, places, I would add the yoga studio that I go to. That would be like an important place for me because it helps me just kind of feel grounded again, or maybe the church that we go to. So it could be anything for you that's an important place. So then things, these are kind of random, but those are things that are important in my life. Things was harder for me, but it was like, what things could I tell a story about? But what I'm going to show you today is how I take then one of those things. So like the events was like spring break or vacation. So my family and I, we just recently went to Florida for vacation. And while we were there, there's a lot of things. I could also put like on my first and last, like the first day that we got to our house there, or this was actually the first time that my family and I had taken a long car trip together, like that long, which we drove to try to, avoid staying in hotels and things like that and stay away from other people on an airplane. So first long car trip with my family. I could tell you a story or two about that. Because, personal narratives are usually like a moment that is maybe 20 minutes, at the most a day, but we try to think like 30 minutes to an hour, but then we just stretch it out and tell it slower. So I could probably put a lot of different events from my spring break trip. I could write you a story all about my entire trip to Florida, but that would probably drag on and could get a little boring. So instead, I could tell you about, like I said, the long drive there. It was mostly good, but the last 2 hours started to be tough for our family. I could tell you about when we were the first time we got to our house. And just describing it and how excited we were to be there on vacation, to play together all week. I could tell you about the first time we walked to the ocean's edge. This is kind of an interesting first, but also when we were in Florida was the first time that I saw a person wearing one of these masks, these face masks. In the United States. Like I had seen them on the news a lot, but that, for me was kind of and my daughter, like a turning point, I would say, because up until that point, this has felt farther away, the virus, and that was when it kind of started to feel like it was really coming close to home. All right, so boys and girls, you saw how today I took important people, places, and things in my life, and I made lists of what those people, places, and things were, and then you could also think of events or first and last, and how even just like that one trip I took, I could come up with a lot of different, what I would say would be like seed moments to write about, right? And then what I would do after that is I would pick one of those and I would start to write a little bit about it. So I think the one that I would pick for today is maybe writing about when we went to the grocery store because we needed food when we got there. We were going to avoid going to all restaurants so that we weren't, getting germs. But when we were leaving the grocery store, after we tried to stay away from everybody and go really fast, we saw someone wearing a face mask, and that kind of, it's almost like when there's wars in other countries and it's in another country, it's far away, but we don't usually see that happening in America, and so that really brought that closer to home for me. So I'm now going to take some time today and write a little bit about some of these. The goal for writers is to write a page a day, okay, especially when you get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So I want you to be thinking about whether this is on your iPad or whether it's just grabbing a pen and pencil. Like you're doing a lot of things on your iPad right now. I would encourage you to maybe take your writing off the iPad this week if you can. If you've got a pen and pencil or pencil and paper at home, use that. And if you don't, let me know. We'll see what we can do. to make sure that you have something you can write on, even if that's online on your iPad. I'll provide you some options that way too. But remember, boys and girls, today and every day as writers, what I want you to work on is really still keeping up with that writing stamina while you're at home. And I want you to think about today how you, as a writer of personal narrative, can use people, places, and things to make lists, and then pick one of those that kind of jogs some thinking for you and start writing about that. Okay? All right. Can't wait to see what you come up with.